the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Jim Gaudette. It's Idaho Matters. For 65 years, the Ada County Medical Society has been bringing doctors and medical professionals together to build a stronger community. Every year, the group honors those who have contributed significantly to the local medical community. Idaho Matters was honored to receive a Friend of Medicine award this year. Since 1991, the ACMS has recognized those exemplifying the highest professional ideas. And this year, they gave their Lifetime Achievement Award to Dr. Stephen Ryder with the St. Alphonsus Heart Institute. And Dr. Ryder joins us now to talk about his career. Well, talk about what you do. I think it's safe to say you're a heart doctor, but what kind of things do you do on a typical day?
Well, gosh, there are different pathways in cardiology. When I was training at the University of Utah, we kind of learned everything. You were expected to put in pacemakers, do angiograms, and potentially angioplasty, and then also do electrical studies. It was a transformative time in a way, a formative time in cardiology. But I chose ultimately after a few years to go into just interventional cardiology. So that meant trying to open up arteries with balloons and stents. And the chief thing that we made an impact on were patients who were in acute illness, coronary syndromes, or heart attacks, where we try to open up the heart attack artery to stabilize the heart. So that was kind of my passion and mission over 39 years doing that type of work. And so we would see patients in clinic both before consultations, I might say, for various medical issues like hyperlipidemia and hypertension. But in the hospital, we would see patients with heart failure and various cardiac arrhythmias. And then the interventional guys like myself would be on call for taking care of, heart attack type patients who are really critically ill. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, the ACMS said you were a founding member of interventional cardiology in the Treasure Valley, and you helped develop St. Alphonsus Heart Institute. Tell us about that.
Well, gosh, I was influenced very interestingly by going to the University of Oregon right between my freshman and sophomore year of medical school. They selected one student each summer to come work in the radiology department. And while I was there, I was witness to a gentleman who had such a creative mind. He was the first person to ever do an angioplasty. His name was Charles Doddard. He was trying to open up arteries by pushing catheters into the arteries of the leg, and was able to do that by sequentially increasing the diameter of these catheters. At any rate, that was very interesting. I had no idea that he was a pioneer in a field that I would eventually get involved with. But as an internist, I had the opportunity to hear lectures on cardiology in the forefront of cardiology. And there was a lecture from a doctor who had performed the first heart attack coronary intervention. That's become totally normal and expected nowadays, that we'd go and open an artery with an angioplasty and stent a heart attack artery. But he was the first in the world to do that, and I was able to hear him speak about that in 1981. I finished my training in 1984, and at that time began just doing balloon angioplasty. We had simple techniques at that time, just trying to dilate an artery, much in the way that the Dr. Doddard was working, but with a balloon instead. And then stenting was the major breakthrough in the early 90s. And then stents got better and better. I think we might be on our 8th or 10th version of stents that are now improved and very durable, medicated. So I was just really fortunate, very privileged to have experiences that were incremental in the angioplasty world, first starting off with just balloons and then trying to scrape and rotate out arteries that needed, improvement. And then finally with stenting, which became a huge benefit to us and patients. So at any rate, yeah, I was just here at a time when all this was evolving and was very privileged to be part of that.
Well, I mean, you're talking about something these days. I don't know how many people that I've talked to who said, "Oh yeah, they put the balloon up my leg and into my heart, and it's no big deal, and it happens all the time." But you're talking about when this started, that being on that forefront of when this actually started happening.
That was very exciting and also scary sometimes, because patients faced either having to go to bypass surgery, which is a pretty big deal, obviously, and invasive, versus having a small little hole in the groin or more recently in the wrist, and then having a balloon open up the artery, and then perhaps going home later the same day or the following day. So, we thought that being less invasive was really a great way to go. But in the early days, when we opened up an artery with a balloon, we were never quite sure if it would remain stable and open. Sometimes the artery would collapse, and sometimes there would be some crazy things called dissections. And we had to be prepared to send the patient to bypass surgery on an urgent basis, using our surgical colleagues to be in the background and available just in case we failed. And sometimes arteries would fail because we didn't have advanced enough technology to stabilize everyone who went through that procedure. So it was, really an excellent advancement, but also a scary time. It wasn't until we had stenting in the 90s where we could perform the balloon to open the artery, but then put a stent in to stabilize it. And that reduced the need to go to surgery so dramatically that surgical standby wasn't required. At any rate, just interesting and somewhat scary time, I have to say.
Well, let's talk about your patients. You were recognized by, I think it was Trinity Health. You have some of the highest patient satisfaction evaluations. Talk about patients. You obviously earn their trust. How important is that?
Well, gosh, that's a real privilege, obviously, to treat patients. And I think my mission was to always treat patients just as I would treat my family, of course, but also to try to teach what we're doing. Yeah, I think that's so critical. I was really passionate about teaching residents and students, but I felt like teaching patients about their disease was a way to really bring them to the best acceptance of the treatment we were providing. I've taught also this idea of trying to have patients join up with us. I took that term from Monty Roberts, who was training wild horses and horses that couldn't be trained by usual techniques. And he had the horse language that he learned by watching wild Mustangs. And the idea was that a horse would follow his directions and be trainable if he could have the horse join up. And I just took that concept to patient care where, if we're talking about doing a high risk procedure on a patient and they really need to obviously trust that we're doing the right thing, that they'll trust the process, but also the physician doing it. And that quotes join up phenomenon is something I really tried to teach, but also use in my own practice. So I think that helped patients become appreciative of the care we provided.
So wait a minute. It sounds like, can I say you're the heart whisperer?
Oh, well, that concept is very interesting. Certainly Monty Roberts was considered the horse whisperer. And I don't know, that's an interesting term. I haven't heard that one for cardiology, but that's very fascinating.
Well, it sounds like the same thing, getting the patients to trust you and to understand and to buy into what you're doing to help them.
I think that's really so true. Yeah, we would meet a patient for the first time, and of course, patients who come in with a heart attack could be right there needing an urgent procedure. They may be even dying, and we might meet them for the first time and say, "Gosh, you're having this heart attack. We need to do a procedure that's going to open that artery. We need to go into your heart." And it's hard to get that joint up in 5 minutes, but it's really a precious moment in time to be able to bring a patient and their family onto that whole idea that they need to have something done right away. So join up can be a 5 minute kind of interaction, but most commonly in more elective procedures, it's a real gradual, kind of trust that you build and hopefully become accepted in their belief that this is the right thing to do.
Well, how did you feel when you found out that the ACMS was honoring you with their Lifetime Achievement Award?
Gosh, I was very honored by that. And, listening to the other awardees as they accepted their recognitions, I was just really humbled to see that I was among those. And, it was quite an honor. I didn't expect that at all. And it's a joint kind of award as well, with support from my family, my wife, who's been with me 51 years. Some people would question her sanity for sticking with me that long, but having just thinking over the different influences, certainly my mom, who was always supportive, but dad, who kicked me in the rear end a few times, and then just having the stick-to-itiveness, I guess. Not a whole lot of talent, but a lot of work ethic that was taught to me. So I'm capping of a career here in Boise.
Well, what's next for you? What's next in your life journey?
Well, gosh, I'm still doing outreach clinics right now, going up to Cascade, and been doing that a few years, and been going up to the Wood River for Haley and Sun Valley for the last 32 years. So as I kind of changed my practice from intervention to being on call just to outreach clinics, I have enjoyed that. But in September, I'm going to be turning that all over to my partners. And actually, as I turn 77, I'll be, I guess, fully retired. I hope I can still do some teaching. That's been a real passion for me, and always really enjoyed any kind of sharing of knowledge that we have over these many years. And if I'm asked to do something like that, I'd be delighted. And I'll do some volunteer work, of course, and some travel, that type of thing that we've put off somewhat.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your story with us. This has been fascinating.
Right. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much. And I wish you guys all the best, too.
We've been speaking with Dr. Stephen Ryder with the St. Alphonsus Heart Institute about his Lifetime Achievement Award from the Ada County Medical Society.
And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Thanks so much for listening. And just a reminder, you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts.
Planet Money helps you understand the economy. We find the people at the center of the story.
Garbage in New York, that was like a controlled substance.
We show you how money influences everything.
Tell me what you like by telling me how you spend your money.
And we dig until we get answers.
I had a bad feeling you were going to bring that up.
Planet Money finds out. All you have to do is listen. The Planet Money Podcast from NPR.